Just to cover a little bit what you've just said, what did you get out of that trip to Samoa?
Yeah, just probably a really humbling experience. I think one thing that was really evident, and I don't want this to sound derogatory in any way, shape or form, but they don't have a great deal there, but they're so happy as a nation. And so proud as a nation as well. It's it was a bit of an eye opener for me. Our kids sort of don't speak to you for a week when their Wi-Fi goes down, and the youth over there, just like I said, some of them have nothing on the feet, and literally have nothing on the feet, but are constantly smiling ear to ear. So yeah, it was a bit of a very humbling, very humbling.
Just in terms of the World Cup experience as well during that tournament, was there anything that you can take from that and sort of employ in this season to help?
Yeah, definitely. There's plenty to come out of the camp that I think, just how other coaches do things. Working with the other coaching staff that I was around. The organisational side of it as well. I think there's some things that I've done different there, and just bouncing ideas off from some of the most intelligent rugby league players on the planet at the moment. So you'd be a fool if you don't go into a camp like that and come away with nothing, I think.
I don't know if you were aware or not, but with you being away, I think some fans thought you'd done a runner.
They're not that lucky. No, I don't know what run to Samoa actually ran to Samoa or.
I don't know. There was some suggestion you weren't coming back.
I think that was just our playing squad hoping.
It's good
I have that effect on people, JD.
No, I'm sure you don't. Yeah. I don't know whether it's too early to touch on this or not, but just in terms of your future, obviously you came on a initial 2-year deal. Has there been tentative talks as to what happens next year?
No, nothing. No, so it's not something I particularly. It's not something that's at the forefront of my mind either. I think we had a decent year last year without being special. I think we could have had a bigger impact on the competition if we'd have been a little bit healthier. The injuries to the spine in particular, like I said, was damaging for us last year, and I think so much hinges on our success this time around with keeping our nucleus of our spine on the field. But like any team in the competition, that's no different. But yeah, we really siphoned through them, in terms of losing Niall and losing Rocky, then Truey, then Danny Rich. It was I think Gaz O'Brien. It was it was a test, definitely, but fair play to the players that jumped in there out of position and had to adapt. And I thought they did Greg Eden, for example, to play half a season as a 6 is a challenge when you're notoriously a winger and haven't played fullback for at least 2 or 3 seasons.
To that end, then, regarding the season to come, what's encouraged you about the pre-season that you've seen so far?
I think it's been a steady progression. I think one of the advantages this time round was that it wasn't wholesale changes in terms of playbook, in terms of terminology. I think a lot of the players that was here last year was on that. We'd not had to make many adaptations to that, so that was a positive. I just think them understanding what I'm after and how I see the game is an important one as well, and likewise me for them as well. Having an understanding of the group and individuals a bit better can only be a benefit for us moving forward.
It's a pretty onerous question at this time of the year, but from the sessions you've overseen so far, is there anyone in particular that's impressed?
Yeah, that's a standard go-to, isn't it, for pre-season? Yeah, look, I think there's been. I think as a whole, the training quality and standard as I said, it's progressed and is getting better. I think one thing we've probably done a little bit more of this time round than previous years is we've had a lot more opposed sessions. 13 on 13. You know, firstly because we've managed to integrate the first team squad with a little bit of the educational stuff at the club as well, which is a massive plus for us because it gives us the ability to do that. Gives us some young blokes the ability who are in full time during the day to be able to jump on one of our field sessions. And then secondly, we've made a decision that we want to try and run some opposed sessions to get our best players on the field against other opposition as well. So today, we've gone up against Wakefield, York, Keighley, Featherstone. Hopefully, I've not missed anybody out. But I think them sessions in itself are really beneficial to you as well.
Because I think there was a sense that you felt you were underdone going into last season. That's a mistake you don't want to make again.
Yeah, definitely. And I say underdone last season. I don't think it was. There was some reasons for that. There was blokes coming back. For example, Jordan Turner had 1 week's pre-season before he actually jumped in. Paul McShane missed 3/4 of the pre-season, so as did Adam Milner. So I say it was underdone. I think we was physically underdone in terms of them getting the reps in on the field, on the training field, simply because there was returning to play, unfortunately. And again, I'm going to touch wood now. We haven't. I think there's only Callum McClelland in that current position at the moment. So again, hopefully that amount of health will only benefit us.
So Sunday, then, how strong a squad are you intending to put out, and which of the new boys might we see?
It'll be a big squad. It'll be a big squad. There'll be a lot of interchanges. But yeah, the core of the squad will be playing. There's some fellas that won't be playing that we can't afford to get injured at this point in the. You can't afford injuries at any point in the season. But there's some blokes that I'm going to wrap in cotton wool until probably our last friendly against Huddersfield.
Are you able to say which ones those are, Radders?
Yeah, just off the top of my head, our two halfbacks won't be participating. I probably won't do until Huddersfield. So for obvious reasons, and probably Niles probably in that same bracket as well. But majority of the squad will be involved at some point, and depending on how many players we've got in their position will depend on how much time they get on the field on Sunday. And hopefully Sunday's an opportunity just to have a look at some areas of improvement for us and some things we've sort of got to tweak before building towards the start of the Super League campaign.
And just lastly from me, did you get a chance to play against Jake Webster when he was at KR and you were at Hull? You remember?
I did. Yeah. You're testing my memory because it's not on point.
Yeah, it's coming back a bit, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I'm sure I did. Yeah, I'm sure I did on a few occasions. Yeah.
And have you had a sense in the time that you've been at Cass the sort of contribution he's made to the club that you're at now?
Yeah, just it's obviously. There's a lot of history in and around the club in terms of imagery around the walls, etc. And obviously he's on one or two of those. So I think he caught up with a few of the boys last week when we played them at opposed, when we trained with them at opposed as well. So it was obviously I think Castleford was probably his biggest contribution to a club whilst his time. I know he was at LKR for a while, but I think you probably saw the best of him at Castleford. So yeah, for any player having a testimony, I think it's a really good reward, and obviously to have it against his former club will obviously be big for Jake as well.
Thank you, my friend. Good to see you.
Thank you.
I'll pass you over, mate.
Just on the going up against other clubs and what have you, is that something you've done in the past? Not necessarily at Cass, but with Hull.
We've done it. It's definitely done it at Hull on numerous occasions and done it a couple of times. Last year probably didn't do as much of it last year as I'd liked. But as I said, just from getting reps into putting your strongest squad out there against an opposition, the benefits are obviously, you know what's coming when you're going 13 on 13 against your own team a lot of the time. The calls and the plays, and you get one or two players that shut them players down being awkward, whereas, coming up against, just a fresh set of legs and different attacking structures can be of a benefit, I think.
Does it ever get out of hand? Who refs it? That's my next question.
Yeah, so we get officials in for that. We've had a couple of officials in to come and referee that, kindly. So we obviously appreciate them coming in as well. And look, the contact is shot to stop, and it's a respectable, third man assist. So in a strange sort of way, it sort of restricts injuries as well. In injuries that you might pick up in a friendly, you're a lot less likely to pick up in a pause session, in my opinion. So there's some real mileage in it.
And just lastly from me, I think Chase Blair's announced he's retiring. I mean, he obviously had a tough time for a lot of the time at Cass with injuries and various other things, but he's surprised. I think he's only 31 still. He's surprised he's not carried on somewhere.
It's a funny one because obviously last year was my only time of obviously coming across Chase, and throughout the year there was one or two niggles there, and sometimes when it's when your body's telling you to call it a day. I think some of the niggles on the back of a niggle as well can be frustrating when you're at that age. I was pretty much there myself as well, so I am.
You mentioned Callum McClellan there a minute ago. I mean, how's he doing? Obviously horrific, sort of, not even just a year, horrific couple of years for the kid, isn't it?
Yeah, just obviously really disappointing. We actually signed him on the impression he would be back last April. Obviously that never happened. So to lose again, you talk about injuries last year, to lose another half for the season was really disappointing. And then it was sort of all systems go for the start of this year. So we need to see a progression in him. Because as you said, getting on the field has obviously been an issue for Callum over the last couple of years.
Are you able to put any sort of rough timeframes on when we might see him yet? Or
it's one of them. As I said, if you'd have asked me this time last year, I'd have said March, April, and it sort of didn't transpire like that. So I don't want to predict something and it don't come off. And but like I said, we need, with Danny Rich being out for the the season, obviously with his injury, we're already short in that position, if that makes sense.
Frustrating for you, obviously, as a coach, but for him, I mean, it's his formative years as a player. He should be sort of out there playing every week, wherever that be. I mean, how is he between the years mentally?
Yeah, no, it's tough because you find yourself not within the group a lot of the time, and with the medical staff and doing a lot of S&C by yourself. So any long-term injury is difficult. For that reason, you see the boys on the field, and you see the crack they're having and how hard they're working, etc. And it does become a frustration for you. And then probably the ultimate downside to that is when they're playing and you're sat in the stands. That's that can be a real frustration as well. So hopefully it's thickened his skin in terms of mentally. He's had one or two setbacks, as we said.
Obviously, disciplinary dominated a lot of these last year. You suggested fines, and it's gone more that way, which you must be pleased with.
Definitely, yeah. I think it's just a smart decision. I think as a competition, where the amount of games we're playing is obviously really high when you look at, compared to the NRL, for example, and the strain and test we put on our players is already challenging enough where, we to have 3 and 4 missing, or 5 and 6 missing every round through suspension is, makes it even more difficult for your squads and test your squads even more. And, the supporters, as much as they want to see young players coming through, they want to see young players coming through that are of they're playing because of their talent and their attitudes, not because there's nobody else to play. And I think if you looked at the back end of last year, the injuries that every club had, unfortunately, that was the case in so many teams.
Might you have a few players asking you for a few quid, given the small role you might have played in it?
But it's actually been mentioned. I won't tell you the player, but he's fuming about it because it's going to cost him a few quid.
It's not Liam Watts, is it?
I can't say that.
No, he spoke recently about making adjustments to his game. Have you been pleased with his application and attitude towards improving his discipline?
Yeah, I think it's a challenge for Liam because he's, as we've said, as everybody said, the players of that age have been taught from such an early stage in their careers are, putting as much pressure as you can on ball players and halfbacks and not allowing them all the time and spacing the well that a good halfback wants. So, that's a game of cat and mouse. They want as much time on the ball as they can, and we want to take that away from them. So sometimes when you're working that hard from the inside to try and get to ball player, it's a fraction of a second you've got to decide whether the ball's left his hand or not. But they come down really hard on that last year. And the adaptation is going to take some time ultimately, and giving us time to work on it in pre-season this time round will be a benefit, whereas last time round it's almost got dropped on us heading into the friendlies, if that makes sense. So hopefully we'll see some benefits from having that knowledge as well.
He's one of your senior guys, obviously. Is he going to be playing in this friendly this week, just so he can put stuff into practice in a live
definitely,
situation?
yeah. Obviously, he missed I think, if been available, it would have played probably against Featherstone as well on New Year's Eve, but it was suspended for that one. So yeah, Liam will participate this week.
Does anyone miss out this week through injury?
No, not so. I think that the blokes that won't be playing are blokes that will, as I've said, will probably be wrapping in cotton wool and have either had a history of being injured and we want to wrap up, or are really important in terms of we don't have much replacement for them players as well.
You mentioned the rest of the spine. Is Paul McShane one who will be wrapped in cotton wool as well? Yeah,
I think so, definitely. Yeah, I think he's obviously very valuable to what we. And I ain't saying the other blokes are. I'm just saying, he plays a specialist position where, again, we're probably not stacked in depth in that position.
So you're protecting your whole spine. Is that given what happened last year and the issues you have there?
Pretty much, yeah. I think that'll be the way we go.
Just a couple of quick ones. I've noticed, I think you're one or two left to announce their squad numbers. Are you close to finalising your entire squad and then those numbers?
Yeah, I think internally we've done that. I think there's a sponsors evening this Friday actually, so I'm pretty sure that'll be made public on the evening, I would imagine. So we got them nailed down last week. It's as I said, it's a big squad. It's a fair old size squad as well.
Yeah, so you've completed your squad there. Ryan Hampshire, I think, was training with you during his rehab, and he's still off contract. Is there much talk? Is he going to be a part of your team this year?
We'll wait and see. He's just literally got back on the field for his first run. His official run on Tuesday. So there's been no movement in that, but he's progressing. He's coming along nicely in terms of his rehab, and Matty Crowther's doing a good job in getting him up to speed.
Almost on a trial and train, then, is he?
So obviously his contract's currently expired. So, but we want to get him. We want to get him right, and want to get him back on the field and give him an opportunity to put his best foot forward.
And if fully fit, I imagine he's a player that you'd be more than happy to have in your squad to cover positions and add that little bit of competition. And he's full of talent and flair. Yeah,
I thought it was really, really good for us last year. And obviously, cap dictates a lot of where you're at in terms of recruitment. So we'll just have to see. Like I say, I think our first challenge with Ryan is getting him back up to speed and getting him healthy and competing again.
So just to confirm, so the club will be sticking by him until he is fit and healthy, and then
I think you have a duty of care as when somebody's not got another club at that moment in time and he's injured. He's injured playing for you. I think any club would do the right thing by a player.
I mean, just talking about Ryan Hampshire, I hope you do sign him because he's a kid who I quite like watching a lot, and I think he's got a lot to offer, and he's been dead unlucky, really. As so many of your players were last year, and I can fully understand, Lee, why you're saying your spine players need protection. I mean, the one thing we saw from last year's competition was that a team that can keep its spine players together the whole season, and I'm thinking about Salford, will get the benefit of it. And they came to you on the 29th of August and put 50 on you. And I thought that was probably the best Super League performance of any club the whole year last year when they did that. But then they lost. They lost Brodie Croft for that trip to St Helens, and Ackers got injured in the second minute, and bingo, they were gone, weren't they?
Yeah, it's probably there's a good advertisement for it. You probably just Carlsberg did advertisements for keeping your spine on the field. You've probably just nailed that one. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, they're important, and those key positions. There isn't a great amount in our competition. Hence the reason when you look at the salary caps throughout each club, you'll find that those positions in particular take up a large chunk of your salary cap, and there's a reason for that. They're a rarity.
Yeah. Can I just ask who else? I mean, obviously, if your spine, your first choice would obviously presumably be Evels, Miller, Widdop, and McShane. But below that, who else have you got in the squad? The youngsters that you might be able to bring in if any of those guys do pick up an injury.
Yeah, I think probably behind that, we've got a little bit of variation in there. Jake Mamo can obviously play at full back, which Niall goes down. There's an option there. Jack Broadbent can play at 6 and at full back as well. And McShane's obviously played a chunk of last season in the halves as well. And behind him, we've got a young lad called Jacob Hookham who came across from Hull, who's very much still in his development stages as a half. But we've consciously purposely made a decision of churning people in and out of position this year because if this year is anything like last, there's going to be some movement around your squads because of the two things we just spoke about, probably suspensions and injuries.
Can I just ask about Jack Broadbent, how he's fitted in? Because when he first came on the scene at Leeds as a young player, I thought he was going to be a real star potentially, and he's still got time to reach that sort of level. Leeds let him go. I was a bit surprised that they did, but hopefully to your advantage. Is he a kid who you think has got the potential to come through and be a significant player?
I've been really impressed with him in pre-season. Physically he's incredibly fit. I think first and foremost, very confident and a good communicator. And what I like, sometimes it's a detriment where you can play a numerous amount of positions, but whatever position he goes to, he competes really hard there. And I think, that for that reason, we want, hopefully he can come to our club and become a starter, and nail a spot down. And I suppose the opportunity is there. The ball's in Jack's court, but so far I think the players have been really impressed by him, as have the staff.
Yeah, and do you still have space on your salary cap? I mean, it's notable that you've not signed any overseas stars this year from the NRL. Obviously, you've been mixing with some great players with the Samoan team. Presumably, if any of those guys were keen on coming to England, you'd be the first guy they'd probably phone up and speak to, I would imagine. But is there a chance you might still sign some more players, either overseas players or domestics?
No, not unless there's any movement within as I said, I think if you have a look at our squad numbers that'll get announced on Friday, it's a fair old squad in terms of numbers. So no is probably the answer to that. And with regards to any of the Samoan boys, I just think it's they've gone to 12.7 now, I believe, on the salary cap.
They have, yeah.
Which is 180,000. I just think the chance of you picking a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 international player up is very rare. I don't think there's many. I think Catalan maybe, Takiaho would probably.
Takiaho, yeah.
Probably be the only one. I would say. I don't think any other club has signed an international from top teams.
Will Paul McShane be the captain again this year, Lee?
Yeah, he'll captain the side. In terms of vice captain, we've not made that decision yet. But yeah, I think Paul will be captain.
I mean, Milky was the captain at Wakefield, wasn't he? So presumably he'll have some sort of leadership role obviously as a number 6 as well. I assume he'll be a pretty important guy this year.
Yeah, I think it helps. No doubt it helps in that position when your communication skills are high, and you can command a room as well. I think that's invaluable in that position. And all the best ones, all the good ones you've seen or coached or played with, all have that commanding personality, I think. And Jacob's no different from that. And I think that's probably something that's he's developed throughout his career. I think over the years, most halves get better at that and grow. It's very rare a young half comes through who has those attributes, I suppose.
Yeah, and I mean, it's funny because he led Wakefield in that great win over you at last year, which broke that long sequence of defeats. It must have been, horrible for you as a coach to see your team losing, but must have been nice to know he'd be playing for you this year.
Yeah, it was a bit sweet. I think it was already done by then.
Yeah, so. I think it was. Yeah, everybody knew about it. Yeah,
it wasn't announced. So yeah, it was it was a bit sweet. I just think obviously with him and Gaz coming through the door, I think one improvement. I'm pretty confident one area we'll be better at. Will be our kicking game. I think we've seen that already in pre-season. I think the ball, both really astute kickers of the ball, and I think the addition of those two will be a plus for us.
Can I just ask you one final question, Lee? And it's going back to the World Cup. Obviously, you were in the Samoan dressing room when they beat England in that semi-final. How did it feel, really? Obviously, you must have been thrilled that the Samoans won, but must have been an odd feeling as an Englishman as well, seeing England, just go down by a point in such a crucial game.
Honestly, I think the competitiveness in me far overweighed any sentiment to English rugby league at that point. I wanted to win, as much as anybody in that changing room, and was as ecstatic as anybody in that changing room when we did, particularly after the first game, because I got a bit of stick after that first game. I say a bit of stick. I think it was 226 messages or something like that of stick. So
yeah, I didn't send you one. I'm glad to say.
No, you didn't. But he was one of the very few. But yeah. Some of the there was some things on social media. It took me days to ruin Samoa's defence and things like that. Pictures like that was getting sent to me. So when that happens and then you turn that on its head, you have a little right smile to yourself, I think.
Was that the worst thing that England did in the World Cup, Lee, winning that first game so easily? Obviously, did it make them complacent? Or, did it actually fire up the Samoans to really come back and show them what was what? The day?
Obviously, Andy Last is in the same office as me, and we travelled down together and we spoke about it a lot. England got beat by an incredible team in an incredible game in an incredible situation. They didn't get an awful lot wrong. I don't think they got an awful lot wrong. They probably just didn't take their opportunities on that occasion. The first game, I don't want to speak out of turn, but our Penrith boys had been on the sauce for a week and a half. They had 2 training sessions with us. So there was a understanding would be off. We lost Tyrone May. We lost Hammer on the wing. We lost Isaac Sego. Actually finished the game, but we lost him for the rest of the competition. And there was one more, Braden. We lost Braden. We ended up losing 4 players in one game. So what went wrong what could have gone wrong went wrong in that first game. The top and bottom of it is, that I understand there's inquests into what went wrong for England. Not much went wrong for them. They just played a very, very good side.
I thought Lafai coming in was a great move actually for Samoa, as it turned out.
And Liggy coming in, Liggy Sam was fantastic for us. So, and somebody who probably didn't get any credit, and didn't even take the field, but was incredible around the camp and for the players was Ken Seo. Ken Seo was phenomenal. The non-playing.
Unlucky not to play, yeah.
Lucky not to play, but drove standards actually not playing, and I think that's probably a credit to him. So yeah, the big what went wrong for England. I don't think much went wrong for England. They just played a very, very good side on the day, and we struck the ball really well in Stephen Crichton, and they probably never got that opportunity because of a couple of errors.